The French. Inventors of mayonnaise and parlay, don't you know? Right, so where did we leave off? We had spoken with Jean and Tumon, two sprightly fellows, and we're going to find out a little bit more about them. They seem to be making a raft, and they can't have been there much longer than we had. Let's find out a little bit more about them. So come closer, and I'll continue the tale. Chapter 7. The crew of the Barnacle followed Jean and Tumon and Constance along a well-worn path. It led deeper into the island, directly towards the jungle. Soon small trees shielded the crew from the sun. With the shade and the promise of a good drink of water, Jack, Arabella and Fitzwilliam felt their spirits renewed. "Aren't you a bit wee, lad? I mean to surf on a ship?" Arabella asked John curiously. He and Tumon were both a couple of years younger than the rest of them, 13 at the oldest. "Not a private merchant ship," Jean gave an elaborate shrug, not missing a step through the undergrowth. "As the song says, there are a lot of ships in the Caribbean, and a lot of rum and sugar that sails the high seas. Tumon and I have an advantage. We are reliable, we are not married, and unlike the old salts, we do not drink." He grinned at Arabella, who found herself smiling back. Behind them, Fitzwilliam walked close to Jack. "Are you going to tell them about our vessel, the Barnacle?" "Of course I am," Jack said in a dismissive huff, obviously not having thought about it before. "They need a ship, and we need a crew. Assuming they even want to join us. Are you even sure that's wise? We do not know anything about them, really." Fitzwilliam glanced towards Tumon and Constance. They were bringing up the rear, walking as silently as ghosts. Constance flattened her ears and bared her fangs at Fitzwilliam. He shuddered. "Well, besides the odd stroke of luck that saved our tails on this most recent mission, we don't know anything about navigating either," Jack pointed out. "Or did you miss the bit where we got lost and wound up in a hurricane? These lads know what they're doing. We'll never find the Sword of Cortés without decent navigators." "All right. But if anything happens, I will take Jean, you take Tumon." Fitzwilliam tapped the pommel of his sword. "And Arabella gets the cat," Jack said, adding, "Hardly a fair fight. Poor Bill." "Ah, here we are," Jean declared. "Drink up, mes amis." Beyond what looked like just another patch of scrubby trees was a secluded, cool little nook. A rocky overhang shaded a series of clear pools, fed by a spring that bubbled up like a fountain. Arabella immediately fell to the ground and began drinking handfuls of cold water. Jean laughed. "The pool below the spring is just as clean, and much easier to fill your bags with." "And have you suffered any ill effects as a result of drinking this?" Fitzwilliam asked. "It's been a full day now, and no," Jean said with a shrug. He sat down and rested his hands on his knees. Tumon stood quietly nearby. "But what are you going to do now that you have water? Please, tell me that the three of you have a ship to go back to." "As a matter of fact, we do," Jack answered proudly. "The mighty Barnacle survived the storm. We just need to strengthen the mast and she's set to sail." "Where is the rest of your crew?" Tumon asked. You're looking at it," Jack said, grinning. Jean laughed again. "Mon Dieu! Mighty, you said your ship was. Can you take us to a port?" Tumon asked. "Aye," Jack said, trying to think through all the angles quickly. As much as he didn't want to admit that Fitzwilliam was right, it did seem a little too early to invite these three, with open arms. "We could, if it's on our way." "Oh, disgusting!" Arabella shouted suddenly, trying not to shriek. At first it seemed as if Constance were making amends, trotting up to Arabella's injured hand and mewing a little, but then instead of licking it or purring, the cat daintily dropped a human finger bone into the grass before her. Jack looked curious. "Where are all these coming from?" he asked. "Up the path there," Jean said, pointing. "We can take a closer look if you'd like." When they had all turned to go, and she thought no one was looking, Arabella glared at the cat. "This isn't over," she told her. The path they now followed was barely more than an indentation in the dirt. It went around the back of the spring and up the slope behind it. From there, it climbed slowly towards the jungle. Halfway up the hill, they could see over the jungle vines to the beach. Jack squinted, trying to spot the barnacle on the water. It was bobbing against large swells. "What?" he said, puzzled. The perfect sea they had sailed in on had gone. The surf was growing rough, and to the north, the sky was growing cloudy again. "Not that storm again," Arabella sighed. "It's like it's following us." "That is very strange," Jean said. "It seemed to have gone past us to the north, as it should have. I've never seen a tropical storm come from the north." A bent and gnarled beech pine shivered in the rising breeze, making creepy, whispery noises as the wind blew through its needles. "It's headed right towards us again," Jack confirmed. He looked back at the beach, then forward into the green tropical centre of the island. "We should press on, faster," he decided. "We'll be safer under the cover of the jungle." No one disagreed. They plunged forward, and in a few minutes they were under curvy palms and thick vines, leaving the scrub behind. The breeze blew harder, making the giant leaves rattle against each other. Except for the rustling leaves, it was completely silent. No insects chirped, no birds called, not a single animal was there to be seen or heard. "I wish I could wear trousers," Arabella complained, carefully lifting her skirt as she stepped over a log. "You would make a very pretty pirate," Jean said, grinning. "But how did your friends let you aboard? Women are bad luck on ships, you know." "So are cats," Arabella shot back, shaking her fist at him where Constance's scratches still bled a little. "Touché!" Fitzwilliam said, smiling for what seemed the first time in a while. "Oh, you speak French too?" Jean asked. "Oui. French, German, Latin and Greek," Fitz said proudly. "Ah, excellent! Greek!" Jack said. "No doubt that will be useful when we come up against angry natives on this island." "Nreta majri kacha abal majun sakwinak itzel," Juman muttered. "Sorry, my mind's a little rusty." "What did he say?" Arabella asked, curious. Jean just shrugged. It wasn't French Creole. Soon, the path grew a little wider and flat stones appeared underfoot, pushing their way out of the moss at regular intervals, almost as if the path had once been a paved road. At first, it was hard to see all the bones. They were old and dry and splintered like pieces of driftwood or fallen branches from a long-dead tree. Further on, larger pieces of skeletons began to litter the ground. Whole skulls and rib cages poked out of the earth. Old, rotted clothing and leather belts hung limply from thin, bony frames, slowly being reclaimed by the jungle. "I wonder what killed them all," Arabella said in wonder. "There are no marks on the bones. It doesn't seem like there was a war or any kind of battle. They just seem to have died." "There are so many," Fitzwilliam said, sounding a lot less brave than he probably would have liked. "Well," Jack said flatly, "very exciting. Our first meeting with the natives. I wonder if they really do speak Greek." Just then, Constance hissed and ran ahead, disappearing around the bed. "Constance!" Jean yelled. He ran forward, pushing Jack aside. "Maybe you shouldn't," Jack began. But Jean had already vanished into the underbrush. "Blasted kids," Jack said through gritted teeth, running after him. "Constance, get down from there," he heard Jean saying. There was an unpleasant scraping noise, like claws scratching at rock. "No, Constance, no!" When Jack turned the corner, he saw Jean standing there by himself. There was a strange, surprised look on his face. The ground was giving way beneath Jean's feet. Large boulders creaked and shuddered, and then rolled forward and down, disappearing. John pitched down after them, into the darkness. "Jean!" Tumon yelled, running forward. Jack, Arabella and Fitzwilliam followed close behind. They all stopped and stared at the scene below him. It wasn't a pit. It was a small valley just below them. What they were standing on was actually the top of a city wall. The boulders had been part of a turret. Below them stretched the sunken remains of an ancient city. There were crumbling houses, dust-covered boulevards, neatly laid out in stone, and wells gone dry long ago. And it was littered with hundreds upon hundreds of skeletons. "Well, good day, City of the Dead," Jack said, smiling. "And I'm afraid that's all we got time for. So we appear to have come across some kind of ancient city. What lies therein? Well, you're just going to have to tune in tomorrow to find out. So until then, keep your sailing smooth, the wind always at your back, and may your compass always point true. Good night."